All right, here we go. It's game number 2 of this Starcraft 2 World Championship Series, Spring 2019. And on the red corner, we have none other than SpeCial, and he's got a lot at stake. He certainly has a lot in this matchup. He will have to redeem himself because he's up against the very best player in the scene right now. And so far, that game number 1 loss certainly going to be a huge learning curve for him. And here we have on the right side, the lower right side corner, it's none other than our blue Zerg, Serral. Alright, so Serral with a straight approach. Just go for the counterplay, the Infestors, going for these Ravagers, going for the Corruptors as well. He just actually outsmarted SpeCial in terms of like the positioning of his like Infestors, which is like making SpeCial go bonkers because he could not actually escape with that fungal, and then of course that parasite indeed. My goodness, that's really annoying on the side of SpeCial. He has to watch out for those parasites as well, because those infestors will constantly annoy you all throughout. So far, let's see if SpeCial is going to deploy something here. Is he going to stick to the same like battlecruiser armada build? But in Kairos Junction LE, which is the map right now here in game number 2, it might not be heavily advisable because the distance, like going from point A to point B with like a battle cruiser, might not be really that good for SpeCial. It's like running an entire marathon, like 21 kilometers. That's gonna take an entire day if you're SpeCial. So you do not want to do that. So, or maybe he could pull it off and like complement it with another sort of like aerial force like Banshees or Liberators. I mean, Liberators are very common nowadays for Terran, and he could use that as like an alternative. You could actually like do that AoE damage, which is very useful. And so far, the Reaper build has been set up here on the side of SpeCial. But so far, Serral, he knows that SpeCial's doing something odd, so he may as well harass that potential SCV with this drone. There you go, the distraction tactics here. And with that extraction, just to stall down SpeCial, he knows that SpeCial is up to something in that map. But so far, this Reaper is doing a lot of harassment here. And so far, SpeCial is actually trying to dictate Serral's economy early on. Can he actually pull it off? The Queen's already out to shut down this Reaper, but the move speed here by this Reaper is just constantly so much. And there you go. Serral just going for these denies on these extraction points just to provide some scouting intel to see what SpeCial is trying to do. And so far, SpeCial, well, he's trying to likewise scout as well what Serral is doing. He's going to study this drone. Is this drone going for a third natural? Because that would mean that Serral is going to go really like heavily focus on the economy so that he could further mass produce Zerglings. And then if SpeCial goes for the counterplay like Hellion army, all right, we're good to go. Serral is going to go and immediately build off those Ravager or Roaches army, which you could use. And there you go. Starport out, Liberator out as well. So SpeCial going for the other alternative harassment option onto Serral's economy. And so far, remember, if you're Serral, you gotta defend your economy at all costs. I mean, you're trying to use Reapers, might not be like a very sustainable option because so far, the defense here by Serral is really good. And this Overlord, okay, he sees like, oh, if he sees a starport, then Serral will definitely know that SpeCial is going to go for these like Liberators, or if not Liberators, going straight to the battle cruisers. That will instantly allow him to constantly adapt. And this Zergling, can he spot up something? Oh, he could actually go through it. And I think he spotted that starport. So he knows that the Liberators or the BCs are going to be deployed here on the side of SpeCial. So Serral, now the intel is at his favor. So it's possible that he could actually mass the Queens just to make sure that these Liberators will certainly not have any breathing space to just constantly bombard through Serral's economy. There you go. The Queens are just positioning themselves, the Tumors as well. They spot off these Hellions advancing further forward, but he also has to watch out for those Liberators trying to harass through the other flanks as these Reapers and Hellions are trying to engage furthermore. Now the speed upgrade are on the links today. There's a Liberator already being seen by Serral. Of course, with that scouting, was able to manipulate that Liberator to move to the other direction. Very good use of that Zergling there by Serral, together with that Overlord. A combined effort just for him to overanalyze what's happening. Now the Baneling speed upgrades have already deployed here on the side of Serral, and that's going to be very big. You certainly need those just to provide that constant bombardment onto the front end bases. That's going to be your human meat shield for Serral, and you definitely need that going. And that's going to be very useful as well. It's going to be a complementary piece to the Roaches and the Zergling army that you want to deploy. And we could see that happening anytime, right? I mean, it's a pretty good standard counter against these Hellions. That Hellions are certainly might suffocate with what Serral is doing right now. The composition here by Serral is really good. Like, he's trying to go for the counter plays. We can see that. Like, he's trying to scout around the map. And Serral, he knows what SpeCial is up to. Like, with his Overseer, he obviously has the vision. He knows what's happening. I guess you could also potentially see that siege tanks are likely going to be deployed. So, this could be the option for Serral to go for, let's say, an aerial force unit. Like, if he constantly goes for, like, siege tanks, maybe Serral could go for Broodlords, like an armada or army or battalion of Broodlords, just to make sure that those siege tanks won't work. And Liberator trying to pressure on, but the Queens are just defending this natural base just to make sure that this Liberator does not make any impact. And so far, Serral has already formed his spore colonies, which he does need. But he does expose something here on the side of SpeCial. He sees an opening, that orbital command, all under siege, but the liftoff just prevents that from happening. Now, both of these players are actually going to maximize their ground upgrades as well. And based on the production here in like level 1 on the ground army, you could expect SpeCial to go massive ground units. Like, there's the Hellions, there's the Marines. And Cyclones are already going to be deployed, and siege tanks are already out. And here comes the Overseer. He spots something, although being constantly harassed there by the Cyclones. So, no fusion core. So, he knows that SpeCial is not going to build battle cruisers. Instead, he's going to go for the standard build. He's going to go for a hero. I mean, not heroes, but units like the siege tanks, and then Hellions, Hellbats possibly, and then Cyclones as well. On the other hand, Serral, okay, he's already lost some of his overlords, and because of the fact those Liberators are doing a lot of constant pressure, which actually halts Serral's overall production. So far, Serral hanging steady and still. He's got those Banelings ready, and that's going to be very crucial indeed. If he gets those Banelings onto those siege tanks, oh my god, if you're a SpeCial, you're going to lose a lot. There's a Hellion harassment, but so far it's not going to lead to any HP being depleted. The Zerglings trying to like move back and forth, as if it's going for a salsa party on these Zerglings. But these Queens, can they actually pull off the defense? Here comes the mass Zerglings. Oh, nice flank here by the side of Serral. Hello. Backstabbing plays by Serral, just making sure that SpeCial is forced to run away. He did not see the Banelings from the backside of the map. And SpeCial, my goodness, you lose. You lose a lot in that fight, and you're certainly have no choice. You gotta be defensive. You gotta be careful as well. Of course, these siege tanks, can they actually help this? But so far, the Queens are getting bombarded by these Cyclones and Hellions. The mobility is just so much, and they're all not going to force those Zerglings. Certainly, they do not want to deal with those Hellions. And, of course, if you're a SpeCial, that's really a bad loss indeed of ground units. So you know that their Banelings and Ravagers have already been deployed as well on the side of Serral. So you gotta look for some alternatives. And now Banelings are gonna be deployed near SpeCial's base. Can the Liberators move around the map, constantly provide that harassment he did early on, or provide some scouting intel? So far, it's really going to be difficult. I mean, he's trying his best to do so, but the Queens have just positioned themselves together with those spore colonies at their highest. As you can see there you go. The opening has been set. The Baneling attackment has already been set on the side of Serral. But the siege tanks already popped out, and okay, Serral, he knows that those siege tanks are going to be a bit devastating, forced to back away. He has to retreat these Roaches and Ravagers. Now the Marines doing some counter pressure onto Serral. SpeCial's been doing this since game number 1, but so far Serral, he's always been steady. He's done in game number 1. He's defended these like engagements by SpeCial, these battle cruiser like harassments through these spore colonies and even those Ravagers. And right now, against this Marine and Hellion like countermeasure, just go straight for the Queens as well. The Queens are actually doing a really good job just making sure that Serral's defense are very intact indeed, as these Zerglings are just dancing their way through these Hellions. There you go, dancing both between these two partners, ballroom between the Zergling and the Hellion, and eventually the Hellion does win. And of course, they lose a lot. You're able to stall down the economy there if you're special. And that you can see a clash is about to happen though. And the siege tanks, okay, they're in siege mode, so you gotta watch out here if you're Serral. Siege mode popped out, but you got those swarm hosts on the top flank. The locusts are gonna charge further forward. Now these siege tanks are gonna suffocate when those locusts are gonna pop out, and that's gonna force SpeCial to back off. He has to run away. He does not want to encounter those swarm of locusts just to stop those siege tanks. And that's going to be big. So now the swarm host pickoff here has been really good for the side of Serral. It just makes sure that these siege tanks don't really have something of like room to engage. That's going to be huge for the side of Serral. And of course, and there you go. He's positioning his swarm host again. He could actually catch SpeCial off guard. And now the Liberator's going to get caught. There are no infestors to catch him down. Oh, look at this. The swarm host, the Locust army as well. Gonna breach through the flanks here. And these siege tanks, wow, look at the damage on those siege tanks. I don't think you're gonna enjoy that if you're SpeCial. And take note, Serral has really done a really good job defending his base again and again and again and again. Providing that constant pressure onto SpeCial as well. These siege tanks and even the SCVs as well. This is not looking good for SpeCial. He's going to lose a lot of workers, and he's going to lose a lot of units, especially when those corrosive biles are just bombarding those siege tanks on that fight. So, oh my goodness, SpeCial. Like, he's forced to go defensive here. Like, there's the siege mode popped out, but he's got to watch out. He's surrounded with swarm hosts. He's surrounded with ravagers. Queens are just constantly spreading the creep, and then you have got these banelings with the movement speed upgrades, and the Zerglings as well. That's going to provide the constant pressure onto the siege tanks. So things are not looking really good here for SpeCial. And, oh, just look at that. Look at the locusts. It's just so much. You're forced to use your liberators to defend your units against these locusts, which is something you don't want to do. You want to use your liberators to, like, eliminate a massive wave of opponents. But that's not the case. The massive wave of units do not really seem to affect Serral at all. And it's just making SpeCial's life really, really difficult. Now these liberators, they're confused. They're really dazed. They don't know where to go. They don't know what to do because these locusts are just constantly bombarding the economy. Look at those SCVs, forced to retreat. And then you have these Ravagers and Roaches and Queens as well, providing the healing and the damage. And then you got Zerglings based in another location. So SpeCial is lost. He doesn't know what to do. Liberators just to harass locusts, not a good sign. And he has to defend his base, which has been heavily exposed by Serral. Nah, this is not a spot where you want to be if you're SpeCial. Like, here's the thing. Siege tanks don't have mobility. It negates your mobility. Sure, you got Hellions and Cyclones to make sure that your mobility is going to be there at your army. But what if Serral starts building, like, Infestors? And that could actually possibly happen. But instead of Infestors, Serral's actually going for a Spire. Greater Spire to be specific. So he's going for these Broodlord armies, which is also a very good alternative. One, sure, Broodlords maybe are slower than Hellions, but if a Hellion, Siege Tank, and Cyclone army go up against a mass Broodlord, it's going to be a Broodlord victory because Broodlords deal a lot of tons of damage. As you can see, these Liberators are going to get slaughtered here by those Ravager counts. And these locusts are indeed the sensor tower providing the vision needed. And SpeCial is so thankful he's got that sensor tower just to reveal those swarm of locusts. He's able to defend, he's able to prepare himself against the swarm itself. But so far, the swarms are constantly coming. There you go, Zerglings, and then you got Roaches as well. And then you got Queens as well. And now these Liberators, like the impact of this game is just being mitigated because of what Serral's constantly doing. I mean, the scans are trying to do everything, but yeah, this is just really annoying for SpeCial. Like, how does he stop this? Like, his mind has to be in different parallels of the universe just for him to discover what Serral is showing. Like, oh god, like, what does he do now? Defend his base? He has to do that. pressure the opponent, he also has to do that as well. Okay, there's the Liberators doing a lot of damage onto these Ravagers, and now we're going to harass through the economy. All right, there's an opening here by SpeCial. Now can he actually push something onto it? And I feel like he could. I think it's time for him to go on the south, but no, wait, he's got to have to deal with these as well. Yeah, of course, the Planetary Fortress, a lot at stake here on the side of SpeCial. Certainly, he has to get that Sensor Tower, which does reveal his Locust army. And now the Brood Lords have already been deployed. So now if you're SpeCial, your Liberators, yeah, they do have some splash damage on air. They could use that. But I feel like you also need Vikings because they also do a lot of damage onto those Brood Lords as well. But of course, if you're SpeCial, you're going to get these cheese. You're going to get that important targets, which are these Swarm Hosts. You got to hunt them down because as much as possible, you don't like these units to constantly pressure your base. And it's a smart move here by SpeCial, indeed. Look at this, Corruptors already being deployed, which will certainly slow down these Liberators. And Serral, he's going to lose his Harassment Specialist. No more Swarm Hosts for the side of Serral. But that would mean that Serral has so much breathing space to go for Broodlords, which is what's happening right now. Broodlords already massing up. So it feels like those Swarm Hosts are just sacrificial lambs so that Serral could go for the big guns. And here comes the Broodlords, and there you go. Speaking of Broodlords, they're just constantly bombarding, and the Vikings are out. But the Corruptors are just going to say no to these Vikings. They going down. Now here comes a heavy clash happening. The siege tanks trying to claw their way. This is a desperate attempt here by SpeCial. But Serral, just look at this. He's just constantly producing these Banelings. And then you got the Ravagers slowing things down. And so far, these Liberators, can they actually pull things off? This is a very desperate attempt because so far the Broodlords are doing a lot of damage. There's a Thor popped out. Can this Thor actually hold off these Corruptors? But the Queens through the back lines. Oh, look at this. SpeCial is surrounded. He's losing a lot of units in this fight. This gotta be a GG. And these Vikings are certainly... Can they pull this? They cannot. The Corruptor count is just too much for them. This gotta be a GG for them. It's their SpeCial. Like, you lose, you're down to 98. And there you go. Serral get game number 2 of this best of 5 series, and he's making things look easy so far.